Hard to believe here at the Tirconaill Tribune, but it's the 24th of June, halfway through the year, Eamon.
Longest day
The longest day is now past, and we're talking as we approach bonfire night, so it's time to get the Wellingtons on and get a fire lit.
The veg cream out.
Back to the headline stories. There's three of them this week. Actually, they're pretty heavyweight stories. The cap reforms, the big farming story. Probably by this day a week it may well be resolved. The second big story that we think deserves a headline is the Micah. They're still waiting a week after meeting with the minister, just over a week, for a word of the first meeting. They're a bit anxious that hasn't happened as yet. I was talking to Michael Doherty just a couple of hours ago. And the other big change this week is that the projected closure of post offices due to this 17 million deficit that's going to accrue by the end of the year. That is now on hold, and Post is going to put a package of its own together. We're going to come back to that story, but we're also going to be looking, and you will look now at Jimmy Kavanagh is the new Lord Mayor of Letterkenny in the Mulford electoral district. His second time in that role.
That's it. That's Jimmy now. He was unanimously elected as the new mayor of the Letterkenny Mulford Municipal District, as you say, at Tuesday's AGM there in Letterkenny's Aura Centre. And that was the Fine Gael councillor's second time to hold that position. And the deputy mayor will now be Sinn Féin councillor Jerry McMonigal. Jimmy, well-known, popular councillor, his name was proposed by independent councillor Michael McBride and seconded by councillor Kieran Brogan of Fianna Fáil. So that was it. So Jimmy's now in the hot seat for the next while, and he acknowledged the work of outgoing mayor of the municipal district, councillor Donald Coyle.
Yeah, Donald, it's a very busy year for Donald, but like Letterkenny is going to be a very busy one anyway for any mayor, because it is the hub of the county.
That's it.
And we'll be expecting to see him down in Fannerton, Tirconaill and all these places as well.
Yeah, that's the districts. But he'd take over that position now. He'll have plenty of experience from it from his previous time. And he's pictured there with his sister-in-law Agnes and his brothers Charlie and Danny, and his supporters John Hegarty and Eddie McKeever and all that. So
the front page is a lovely colour picture of him with the chain of office and his grandson Connolly.
Yes,
beautiful looking picture of the two of them.
Right.
But Jimmy has dedicated this year's work to the memory of his late brother Padgin, and Jimmy can be relied on to be a very, very strong performer. He doesn't play politics at local level. He's a good, strong Fine Gael politician in his own right, but he does his own thing very, very much so, and he's very well grounded, very experienced. After serving a lifetime working up at the General Hospital in Letterkenny, and he has a great knowledge and insight into the whole area. And I suppose the fact is he's the only Fine Gael rep for that entire Letterkenny Mulford area leaves him with a pretty heavy workload as he stands. But I'm sure he'll get stuck into being the mayor, and he'll be there when he's not wanted, and we wish him very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that year.
Good luck to Jimmy.
After that, we come back then to the whole issue of Micah, and our headline says, "We never agreed 90% Micah redress." And this is Michael Doherty, the PRO of the Micah Action Group, whom I've spoken to at some length this week. They have again confirmed that they never signed up to the details of the proposed Micah redress scheme. That story has been put about by government officials when it suits them, but the reality is quite different. But they're saying that eight days after their demonstration in Dublin, they're disappointed at not having heard from Minister Darragh O'Brien's office to arrange for a meeting. And Michael Doherty goes on to explain that the usual verbal discussions around all of these ideas are talked about long before a document is actually published.
Right.
Did you get your hands on? But one of the ideas being floated, and probably sounded very good and probably was pretty good, was that the cost of a potential scheme could be considered in the context of homeowners paying what will be a small contribution similar to the LIS schemes, the local improvement schemes, where you'll be paying 300, 500 depending on how much you're going to be drawing down. That sounded good at the time, but it was never actually agreed to. It was agreed to consider it, but until they got the document from the minister's office that had the draft of the scheme on it,
Yeah.
They weren't going to be doing anything. They weren't going to be taking it to a public meeting of any kind, which they didn't. But anyway, that's to confirm that they never did sign up to that. But when the document actually did arrive, it bore no resemblance to what they were being discussing. All kinds of roadblocks. I wouldn't say secret agendas, but obviously somebody had a lapse of memory in the Minister's Department and forgot to tell them what was going to be in the document. But leaving all that aside, they have outlined that their number one priority on their agenda, and this includes themselves and the North Mayo Pirate group whom they've met with over the weekend, and their 100% redress inclusive of all costs incurred is their bottom line. There's no doubt that 100% is still on the table, otherwise they wouldn't have agreed to go into that deal or into the negotiations.
And that's to remain on the table?
It's to remain on the table. Now, at what point this becomes difficult to negotiate and to manipulate beyond the Minister's maybe stalling on that, as we expect he will do. But from reading between the lines, I think that the Minister knows already that if he takes it off the table, the local group and probably the North Mayo group simply walk, because they have no alternative, because the issue is much, much too big. And we don't know yet what the context of the overall costs. Neil Martin was putting it at $1 billion within 24 hours. Darragh O'Brien increased it to 1.5 billion. Weekend Sunday newspapers had it up at 2 billion. So the sky is the limit here at this point, because
it's going to keep creeping up.
It leaves an awful lot of issues that are still not addressed. The fact that 4 other counties are now being investigated for potential making is going to add to the delays, and it looks to me, if we're not very careful, that this is going to be stretched out for years. In fact, Darragh O'Brien is quoted as saying that it will take years to resolve it. The problem is so big, and as yet they don't know the extent of it. So I don't know what glimmer of hope is offered there in those remarks that I'm making for those who are very badly affected and who are out of their homes and who are facing a very, very bleak winter, not knowing when or where they're going to be, given that they would probably have to leave their homes. They need more urgent action. They're hoping to have something back by the end of July. Well, they're hoping to have more than something back by the end of July. They hope to have a very, very clear roadmap.
And do you see that?
No, I don't. Sadly, I don't see that.
Because they head into the summer recess.
I don't think anybody else does either. That does not negate the fact that the committee will give it their very best shot. But never before in such a short time frame was that kind of an issue addressed. It is one of the biggest housing issues that Donegal has faced, and that the families are facing. Some of them are at that point where they need solutions rather than talk, but it's very hard to see. I think there's another issue coming in there as well, and that is the fact that the government does not want to carry the can for the entire burden. They want to be seen, homeowners making some contribution. There's no reason that homeowners should. I mean, this is the bottom line. The 100% make it to include all costs is where that is at and where it should be at. And we will be returning to this over and over again, I would say, and we'll see at the end of July where exactly it then stands. But in the meantime, we'll just be keeping in touch, and I suppose everybody else that is involved in that. We have a committee in Letterkenny that's affiliated to the Inishowen group. It is the Donegal Make Action Group. And they have a tough battle on their hands, there's no doubt about that. But we'll move on from that to a new book and a well-known figure.
Johnny Joe McCollum
in Letterkenny has a new book. What's that about?
Johnny Joe has come up with a new book now about the memories of the Summer Cup. The famous Donegal Summer Cups are featured in this new book. It's full of memorabilia and photos and all that time from the big games that used to take place in Moville and Buncrana, Ramelton, Rathmullen, Milford, and these places. There's all features in there. There's a couple of nice old nostalgic pictures there from the early 60s in there that would give you a good insight. There's plenty of well-known faces from the sporting scene over the years in there as well. Swilly Rovers, pictured playing in Celtic Park in Derry in 1962. I see the picture of Rathmullen Celtic there. You have well-known figures like Councillor Ian McGarvey and Father Willie McMenamin, Ewan Busty Blake, people like that in there. So, but that's what's going on. So he,
We were
Johnny,
just mentioning Ian McGarvey there a moment ago. That he celebrated.
landmark occasion, was it?
He celebrated his 67th wedding anniversary yesterday, and that was a mistake. 67 years ago, as he keeps reminding me. He thought it was the longest day on the 22nd. It was only then when Margie told him after the wedding that it wasn't the longest day. But they have survived fairly well ever since.
They haven't fallen out over
And
too much.
Here's wishing them every success.
Yeah, well, very good. And wish Johnny Joe well with his book as well.
That'll be a very interesting book. Johnny Joe is a great character with a great memory and a huge amount of memorabilia. So that'll be well worth a read.
Right.
We shall then come back to 20 years ago.
We're going back a few years
20
now.
years ago, yeah, we're going back a bit. I'm just looking at a picture from the Downings area. I probably took that myself. Members of the newly formed Costa Forbert Meavy, that was the Meavy Development Committee, pictured at their first meeting in the singing pub. 15 of them, all looking fit and well and active. But we looked at this because Fianna Fáil accused of dirty tricks by McHugh. Fianna Fáil must have been very embarrassed about that because themselves and dirty tricks just don't go hand in hand. A big political row has blown up this week in the Mulford area with Fine Gael accusing Fianna Fáil of being involved in a dirty tricks campaign against their Carrick-based councillor Joe McHugh. Joe was just a couple of years a councillor at that time. He was making a lot of moves in Lifford, he was making a lot of publicity. I don't know if Fianna Fáil ever feared him or not, but at that point these rumours began circulating that he was joining Fianna Fáil because he had been seen in the Golden Grill.
Right.
Obviously at a period when it was a big nightclub. Sure, anybody and everybody that moved had to be seen in the Golden Grill.
It was the spot to be.
At that point I thought there was a rumour put out that Joe McHugh was about to join Sinn Féin.
Right.
And my presumption at the time was that it came from Noel McGinley, which I'm sure is fairly correct, because most of the rumours at that point came from Noel McGinley. But I mean, Joe McHugh had stormed to victory a couple of years earlier, and actually it was June 99, when he got a very comfortable seat, and he was way ahead of Fianna Fáil. He got 25.5% and they only got 18.6%. So
Right.
they wouldn't have been that happy about that, but I mean, there's many things they haven't been happy about ever since.
Or won't be in the
That
future.
was 20 years ago. So we now go back to a charity event that you have
Aye.
a handle on here.
Just a wee bit there from my own part over in Creasla. It was a thing called the Sunshine Run, and it was I suppose it took place between brother and sister team John and Sharon McGee from Massnass Creasla. They two undertook. John is quite an endurance athlete, so he undertook quite a marathon, 112-mile cycle route, where he took place all around it finished up in Arch Forest Park. So he was joined by the number of his colleagues and friends along the way, and his sister Sharon then partook in a sponsored head shave as well. And the two of them were doing that to raise funds for two worthy causes, one being the Donegal Hospice, where their father, Sean McGee, the well-known agriculture advisor for years, Sean, passed away. So that was one. And the next thing was the Lamb-Schaffer Syndrome Association as well. It's for a rare type of neurological condition. So between the two of them, they enlisted the help of all their friends and family. I don't think the final tally has been completed, counted just yet, but the pair of them have raised a substantial amount as far as I can understand, and they enlisted plenty of help along as well along the way. So you can see all the nice pictures of them doing that. So
That's lovely. We're going to return then to the front page, I think, at this point. We're going to look first at it's not really on the front page, but it should have been. Post office closures postponed. Ned O'Hara, the General Secretary of the Irish Postmasters Union, has confirmed that plans to reduce the 17 million annual deficit in the network have been postponed for 18 months due to the pandemic. This was the big issue for numbers of months now, when it was first revealed that by An Post that if they weren't given a public service obligation of 17 million, network was costing 70 million to run this year. It is still costing 70 million, but the income from the post office was 53, so there was 17 million short. So they're looking for this public service obligation of 17 million. Anyway, that was rolled back against by the government. Instead, they set up an Earths committee to look into it under the stewardship of Hildegarde Norton, and they're due to report back by the end of July. So there's no big rush there, mind you. But anyway, Ned O'Hara is happy to welcome the fact that An Post will run their existing service for the next 18 months without the risk of closures or reduced services in the interim. How that's going to be achieved, we're not quite certain because we haven't got sight of it. They're hoping to see it within the next week. But Tom O'Callaghan of the Independent Postmasters Group, who regularly features in the Tribune, says that his fear is that the 17 million deficit may not be fully made up by An Post, and he's waiting to see what the confirmation of the package looks like. He thinks it'll be more like 10 or 12 million.
Right.
So what happens to the deficit? Will An Post absorb that? But they're looking to a range of services that probably are more aspirational services, that like motor tax licenses and all this, renewals, registrations, identity verification, community information, IT office hub. They're also looking at the fact that that in the coming months they hope to recover some of the business that they've lost during the pandemic, because they did lose quite a bit here. And they have a new bank coming into the network from September. But it'll take some time for the Bank of Ireland involvement with An Post to translate into real money.
They're fully operational and all that.
It'll probably be the end of the year. Will it mean anything, or will it mean an awful lot?
Yeah.
The jury's out on that there, because people are not using banks that much.
No.
People are going online.
Yeah.
But that is where we stand with the post office closures. They're postponed in the meantime. Expect to hear a lot more of that before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that takes us to our main story. The Brussels red tape is destroying farming, says the IFA chair here in Donegal, Brendan McLaughlin. And this has been it's almost 3 years in the making, this new cap deal. And it's highly contentious, because we're saying here that as negotiations are set to conclude by next Wednesday to reform the EU farm budget, a storm is brewing over the demand to give all farmers an equal slice per hectare of EU payments. It's one of the most divisive issues in farming since the country joined the EU. And then a week ago we had two of the best known figures nationally in the IFA protesting outside their own headquarters at the Irish Farm Centre in Dublin. Causing major internal divisions. And that is an issue that's not going to go away that easily. The whole issue is around converging, flattening of payments. The INHFA that most of us know about here,
the Hill Farmers Group.
The Hill Farmers Group, they're a very strong voice for the Hill Farmers, and indeed for many others as well. And Shawnee Boyle is one of their main one of their main voices here in this part of the county. And Brendan McLaughlin saying that his hope is that the Agriculture Minister Charlie McConlogue will come back from the negotiations with a financial package that can be agreed and signed off in Ireland. The EU Council is totally opposed to that. They want farmers there's a divergence now, or a convergence of 60% only, whilst the bigger farmers are eating up the farmers with the
kind of the biggest hectares and all that.
That's the biggest production actually.
It
goes. You see, the current arrangements date back for 20 years, and it was all based on production. That has now changed. The INHFA are in here, and that so is the ICSA, looking for a fair deal, more equal opportunities. And of course, the eco deal is going to be very relevant, because 25% of the farm budget is going to be spent on that. That's very, very big money. But Shawnee Boyle is saying here it looks bad that Brussels wants the vast majority of Irish farmers to have more money, more equalisation, and a fairer slice of cap. Yet our Minister for Agriculture is not backing that proposal. Now, they were founded to address the inequalities in the EU farm payments, and they say the budget no longer is about production It's about equality, fair play, and the environment. It's a very big, lengthy story inside the paper, and I suppose the best thing to do is read it and get a grasp of what's at stake here, because believe it or not, there's an awful lot at stake.
And it's coming down the line sooner than...
There's about 6,600 farmers in Donegal will stand to benefit, and about 1,700 will stand to lose.
Yeah.
So there's divisions there. The hope is that it can be pulled back together, so farmers will not be fighting against each other, because farming is fragile enough in Ireland without divisions. And at that point, we'll leave it now and go out and enjoy bonfire night. Thanks for listening.